Hello, hello. Welcome to Bold Influence. Hello, hello. Welcome to Bold Influence with Lyna Nyamwaya. I'm going to share this on my wall. Did you already share it? I'm going to share this on my share. Where do I share it to? Share to group. I'm going to share this to. Hi. I'm going to share this to. Where should I share it? How do I share it to my wall? Newsfeed, maybe? Yes. Lyna with Eunice. Yeah, I'm sharing this on my wall and I'm sharing this on my page and I'm hopefully sharing this in different groups that are out there. I'm sharing this in various groups. Hi, everyone. I see 3 people coming on. Awesome. Share in various groups. Miss Eunice, as we wait for you to come on, let's see if I can share this in another group before we get started here. Then I'm also going to share it in maybe the Liberians in Minnesota. Then I'm going to share it. No, that's not where I wanted to share it, in another group. Okay, I think I'm getting it going here. I think I've shared it enough. All right, we have a quorum. It looks like everybody's coming on. Once again, welcome to Bold Influence with Lyna Nyamwaya. I am so excited to be back. It's been a month since we came on. I think we were scheduled to come on with my guest, but because of daily happenings, we had George Floyd die in our city here in Minnesota, and we had a few things happen, so we really never had to do this interview. But today, I welcome all of you. I see we are getting to be a quorum. Everybody watching from YouTube, everybody watching from different groups, thank you for joining us. If I can just start by saying that I have said before that the coronavirus outbreak or COVID-19 exposed the racial disparities that exist in healthcare, and then such as poverty, the social determinants of healthcare. And then if I can say that the death of, or the murder of George Floyd exposed police brutality. As human beings, I'm going to quote Fred Rogers, as human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is, that each one of us has something no one else has or ever will have. And it goes on to say that something inside that is unique to all time. It is our job to encourage each other to discover the uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. That is Fred Rogers. I love that quote. It's very long, but it basically says we are unique and we must recognize our diversity brings in gifts that each one of us carries. When you think about poverty, when we think about poverty, first of all, I want to give the glory and thanks to God for this opportunity, the gift of life, and He's always leading in everything that we do. When you think about poverty, according to Shah in 2014, he wrote that almost half the world, over half 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. That was in 2014. I imagine it's not any better now. Nearly 1 billion entered the 21st century unable to read a book or sign their names. When we are talking about poverty, it's not just materialistic. It could be literacy, being able to read or write. 1 billion children live in poverty. 1 billion children live in poverty. That is 1 in every child in the world. 1 of 2 children in the world live in poverty. Based on the data, like in the US, if you want to break it down, like we can say that 57% of the girls who are enrolled in primary school age are poor, I would say, as regarded, and these are really numbers. So as you come on and as you're joining us, I see many of you. I may not be able to acknowledge each one of you, but you can comment and give a shout out from where you're watching from. But these poverty statistics are all over the world. I like to say that poverty has no face or race. It can affect everybody. And it's a nice way to talk about it because to further down to where we live today, which is the United States, 15.1% of Americans lived in poverty. That is the study from 2010. 15.1%, and that comes from the National Poverty Center. So that's a lot of people, and those numbers I don't think are any better. So if I want to introduce my guest, because she's very passionate about talking for those who are not heard or those who may be silenced, because I believe that everyone has a voice. It's just that sometimes we don't listen to them or we don't hear them. So I want to introduce Eunice Menja. Eunice Menja believes in working for positivity. I'm going to invite her to come, but before she says anything, I'm going to introduce you to the world. Hi, Faith. Hi, Reverend Penny. Hi, Miss Nyamwaya. Eunice Menja believes in working for positivity and growth, and I've known her for that. I can attest to that. She's a human developmentalist with over a decade of success working with children, families, and communities. She has her first degree from Kenya, from Jomo Kenyatta University, and a diploma in civil engineering. And then later she moved here to the United States and settled in Oklahoma, where she continued with her schooling and graduated with a graduate degree in human development and family science. She's currently enrolling as a PhD candidate, but I want to say that she has worked with the Department of Human Services in the state of Oklahoma. She's been an adjunct professor teaching part-time in many universities here and in Kenya. She is the founder and CEO of Upendo Kids, which is a nonprofit organization that sponsors orphaned children or poor children and supports them to give them a home, safety, education, and food as they grow. And this is located in Murang'a, Kenya, which is a small town outside of Nairobi, a few hours from there. She's a motivational speaker. She's a coach. She's a mentor. She's led and counseled friends, young adults, youth, and families. She's also a program advisor currently in the state of Oklahoma in a small community college there. But I want to say that after Corona, Eunice had written a book back in 2017. And after Corona, she's now the president of the Kenyan American Sisters Powerhouse, which is a new group on Facebook that is consisted of almost 5,000 women. So I want to say that she's a 3-time published author on Amazon. And Miss Eunice, I hope you have your books, and as we move forward, you can display them. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Maggie. And welcome, Miss Eunice, to our Bold Influence show today. How are you?
Hi, Lyna. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Huh?
I wonder why. You
Eunice, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you now. Okay,
oh, you
cool.
can?
All right.
Okay.
I want to make sure that our crowd can hear us. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. So welcome to the show tonight. Yes, Reverend Penny, poverty is common to humanity. You're so right. Hi, Miss Caroline. Hi, Marguerite. Everybody, we see you. Wilta Becky. We want to get started right away by saying, Miss Eunice, you're an advocate of many vulnerable people. And when I talk about vulnerable people, I mean a lot of different age groups, generational, whatever, but you're an advocate of many vulnerable groups. In discussing poverty with you and I, we've had conversations where I want you to expound on different things. So when we are going to talk about today is that there are very many different kinds of poverty. And from an educator's perspective, I can talk about maybe situational, generational, absolute, relative, urban, rural, and we want to really break this generational wealth kind of chain by doing things that we can change people's lives. I think that's what you're trying to do with the children. So if I just want to get started, take us back to the little Eunice Menja in primary school, who's 6 years old?
Wow, that's a long time ago, man. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my childhood because I grew up in a small village called Kaheti, in Nyeri. I was lucky and blessed to be raised by two wonderful teachers that definitely acknowledged that education would set me free. So besides education, I was part of the first people, I mean, the home individuals that actually were tasked with the jobs to supplement income. I woke up every morning at 4 a.m. We milked the cows and we took the milk for so many kilometers before we went to school. I walked barefoot to school. I had to carry lunch. Sometimes we had to take ash to go make sure that we pour in our classroom and water also to prevent fleas from coming into our fingers. I mean, our toes. You know, when they get into your toes, you get jiggers and you can't walk. So definitely, I came from a very humble background, even though my parents were teachers. You know about, teachers' salaries in Kenya wasn't that great. My mom was a nursery school teacher. And so we were seven of us. Income was not enough, so we had to supplement. I did, work in the evening. I went and fetched firewood and water and carried them on my back, and then came home and did whatever chores I had to do before I started doing my homework. So I saw a lot of poverty, and especially with my peers. They are children that never had an opportunity to go to school, or if they did, they were sent home because they didn't have uniform. They couldn't pay school fees. And I remember as a little kid how my mom would always spank me when I went home because we had pencils. You know a pencil. I don't know if you can figure that out. That there are some kids that could not stay in class because they didn't have a pencil. So because I was advantaged by my parents knowing that a pencil was important and they bought them in bulk, so I would take one pencil in the morning and I would cut it into small pieces to give to my peers in class so they could stay in class. And then when I went home, my mom thought that I chewed the pencils because anyway, I did chew pencils. I know I drank some of that ink that we used to put in the pen, but I would be spanked because I never told my mom that I gave out my pencil. And that kind of poverty people don't recognize because here in America, you see all these pencils everywhere. And you don't realize that could also be a problem, especially when you want to acquire education. And of course, yeah.
No, that's amazing. And I just wanted to say, for the cultural perspective, for those who may not be from Moranga or growing up in primary using pencils and that, it's like we used to have pencils and your parent had to buy the pencils. So you're not given it, it's not given to you at school. And then that's what, Eunice had to cut it in pieces to share. So your sharing started a long time ago, as I can see.
Yeah, you can cut a pencil into 6 times and give to everybody a small piece, and we would use that for the rest of the day. And then home, I don't have a pencil. Where's your pencil? I get a spanking. But now, after growing older and starting helping with pencils, because when I came to America, I found out that pencils are a lot
everywhere.
So everywhere. So I started picking up pencils from the ground, and I started a ministry of taking pencils home. I go to schools and collect used pencils and take them to Kenya, and they value them like gold. Things that we take for granted. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good to know, because when you're going to talk about upendo, maybe you might want to ask for some pencils. So thank you for sharing that. So you walked barefooted, you had jiggers. I don't think people know what that is, but the infections actually that come they're parasites that can eat your toes and grow on your feet. There's also,
especially if you don't have shoes.
Yes. And in the dusty, dirty floors, they do that. The other thing I wanted to say then, when did you realize that you can stand up for yourself, even as a young girl growing up in that village? When did you realize that it's important to stand up for yourself, but more importantly, maybe I should speak for yourself?
Well, there are various opportunities that gave me a reason to try and stand up for myself, especially if I found and named abuse, by its name, because of course you met the people that wanted to take advantage of you, and you didn't have anyone to defend yourself. I mean, you that time, so you had either to run or hit back, because if you went home and told someone what had happened, probably nobody would have cared. But I want to say that education really made me know how to stand up for myself. When I went to school doing civil engineering, we were only two girls in the classroom. Everybody else was a guy, and it hasn't changed. You go to the department where you are working with all guys, and nobody really think that you as a woman, can even be an engineer. But coming to America, I want to say that is really what gave me a lot of freedom. I can speak up, of course, being in a country where law is enforced, and I being in a country where women's rights are defended, or even children's rights, because as a child growing up, you really didn't have a lot of rights. Your parents could punish you or just spank you in a way that they could hurt you. You go to school, the same thing. You go to the community, the same thing. But coming to this country definitely gave me a lot of freedom. I can speak up for my rights, and I can speak up for other people's rights. You go to an environment here to work. The first thing you're already told about all the rights that you have. Those things never happened in Kenya. Most of the times men did have the rights, whether it is sexually abusing women in the places of work. But here, you do have a right because you are already told what your rights are and what the law can do for you. So, yeah, I can speak up. I have spoken up in many situations, speaking up about for myself and also for other people. And that's why I have written a book to even tell my story. Yeah.
And that's very important. So I like how you say that, because it's not that there are no laws in Kenya, is that the law is enforced more here in many areas, that it was not kind of done the same way back home. So, which is going to bring us to the next subject when we talk about situations with the teens and everybody. But so what, after you came here, you settled, you had your education. I like to say that you mentioned something about education, and I think Malala Yousaf graduated this year. And I would like to quote what she said when she was shot at by the Taliban when she was trying to get an education. I speak not for myself, but for those without voice, those who have fought for their right to live in peace, their right to be treated with dignity, their right to equality of opportunity, their right to be educated. And I think that's what you're trying to do with the children. So if I can ask, what made you start Upendo Kids, and give us the story?
I have a funny story. I mean, it's really not. Let me say that when I was about to come here, I already had my two children. My husband came here ahead of time, and I was supposed to follow him with my children. So I used to be a Sunday school teacher because I have loved working with kids ever since I was a young adult. So I used to work with a lot of children in the Sunday school program at my church. And then when the day came for us to fly to the United States, we had a farewell party. That farewell party you do for your teacher. And so I knew that it was going to be an emotional day because we had a great connection with these kids. I was their drama teacher. I was their music teacher. I just did so much we did so much together. We did festivals together. I would write the drama and I would conduct it, direct it, and we would be the winners. So we had a lot of bonding because we spent a lot of time together. So when it was time for me to come, everyone was in tears, and of course, when kids hear that you're going to America, they have seen so many people leave and not come back. And so one of the things that those kids told me as they were crying, all of us were crying, is, Teacher Eunice, when you go to the United States, do not forget us. And that's, tells you why my book is called Never Forget Us, because that is a phrase that stuck with me even when I came to the United States. So as soon as I settled, some of my kids had started graduating 8th grade. and they wanted to go to Form 1, and they couldn't join because they didn't have money. And so I started getting letters from these kids. They want me to help them to go to Form 1. They want me to help with the school fees. They wanted me to, I mean, just a lot of things. And then I started working here for Head Start as a teacher, and I learned, a lot about child development and brain development in the early years. And so from that, just made me think about the things that I would do for the kids that were missing out, especially in their early years. So I started a program to help some of the kids go to school. And that opened a lot of doors on maybe ways for me to learn how much poverty was in Kenya. Because if you're not going to a private kindergarten in Kenya, you are wasting a whole 5 or 6 years before you join class 1. Because during that time, your brain is not being sensitized. That child is not being read to. That child is not getting any skills, and that is the time you develop most of the skills. That's when the brain is actually supposed to be developing. So I said, well, I'm just going to try to send some of the kids that were in my Sunday school to private kindergarten. So during that time, I would make beads, I would sell chapatis, I would sell mandazis, and there were some people that I was telling, please help me take so and so to school. And there was this one smart, straight kid that came into my life. This child lived in the street. This child her mom was homeless. The mom was mentally ill, and there were 3 of them. And the moment I started receiving her report card, because of course, as I'm gaining education from Oklahoma State University, I'm also recognizing that I do need to evaluate some of the things that I am doing. And the only way I could evaluate is by looking at their report card. Are they making progress? Are there any hindrances that I need to be aware of before I pay school fees? And so I started asking for their report cards. And this girl's report card just blew my mind. She had eyes straight from the streets. And the next thing I was like, when I go to Kenya, I want to meet this girl because I don't know where she comes from. I don't know how she really looks like. I have a photo, yes, it's blurred, but I really want to touch her and tell her that I'm thinking about her and I'm praying for her. So I want to cut the story short, take you straight to where Upendo really began, or the children's home began. It's when I went to visit the girls' school, and my heart just broke into pieces because I didn't find her in class. And I'm thinking, did someone just fake? Did someone just con me for those years? And how can I see this girl? Because I want to see her, whether she's real or just something people are making up. And I've had to find out where she came from. And at that moment, I was determined to go wherever she came from. So they took us to a slum. Lyna, they took us to a slum. We couldn't even get access to that slum. They were drunk people. Like they were laying their bodies everywhere. We couldn't even access with our car. We had to walk over these able-bodied men who were laying down drunk. It's a place that looks very insecure because these adults are amongst some helpless kids that had no food, did not go to school, and Juicy was supposed to be in that chaos. So as soon as I saw Juicy, the first thing I was, why are you not in school? And she pointed out to some clothes that she had hung on a line. It seems like it was her uniform that had been rained on, and that prevented her from going to school. Remember, in Kenya, if you don't have uniform, you don't get to go to school. So I was like, can I buy you another uniform? Then she took us to the room that was supposed to be her shelter. So when we started educating Juicy, some church members came up and decided to trace where Juicy had really, her background. Where is her grandmother? So her grandmother had offered what looked like a kitchen for them to use as a shelter. So that Lyna was smaller than a bathroom here in the US. So figure out a bathroom size, and 4 people are supposed to live in there. And my little Juicy, her name is Juicy, my little Juicy, who was barely 6 years, was taking care of these other siblings because her mom is nowhere to be seen. Her grandma is very elderly, and all these drunk people are around her. And everyone that talked to us say that is a dangerous place. You need to be careful. So I asked Juicy, "What do you eat?" And she said, she just shrugged her shoulders because there is nothing to eat. In the house, there was a little paper bag. I still have pictures of that Walmart size bag that carried all their belongings. That's it. And I asked, well, how do you cook? Her bed, their mattress was this thick, and they used all four of them. That was their mattress, and it was low on the floor. And everyone was in tears because we were a group of us that have gone on a mission trip. And at that moment, we held hands and we were thinking that we're going to pray for Juicy's safety. And that is the time God spoke to me. And the word Upendo Children's Home was out of that prayer. And as soon
Wow.
as we got there, I was ready to build a shelter, to get a shelter for Juicy and her siblings and other children that were living in that situation. So that is how Upendo Children's Home was built. It was in 2013.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm just intrigued by that story. But I love the fact that you mentioned something very important when you said that while you are getting your education, you are getting prepared to see what is your next move, or what are you evaluating, kind of SWOT analysis, like what is working,
Yeah.
what's not working, what's sustainable,
Yeah.
how do you move forward. So education,
Yeah.
once again, is very important. So if I can take you down to where you were supposed to be interviewed back in May, and then now we're in July,
Yes.
we were dealing with Corona. So the Corona
Yes.
outbreak came. And for those who are
Yes.
wondering, so Eunice came as a student in the United States, settled while she was getting a
I came as a nurse. I came as a student dependent. My husband is the one who was a student then.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
I
even
came as a student dependent, but I became a student later.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that what Sophie has just mentioned. But in
Yeah.
speaking of how your journey moving to the United States and then settling, and you still have all these other responsibilities that you're trying to juggle, I would say that nothing of that sort prevented you from kind of giving birth to that leadership of being the CEO of Upendo Kids. You didn't wake up and set up an orphanage, but orphans reached out to you that made you then
Yeah.
build something for them. And that
Yeah.
from that, now you became the president and founder, and now the CEO of Upendo Kids. So if I can ask you then, with our conversation, how we kind of started and ended up here,
Yeah.
coronavirus outbreak hit. And I remember you were one of the crying mothers when the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, said, you know what? Schools are shut down.
We're sending all the kids
Just
home.
explain that.
I think when because of my experience, when I am not in America, I'm in Kenya serving in those streets. I'm in Kenya looking out for those children, even in the streets, because I do believe that even though I have 50 kids that I rescued in the streets, there are many other hundreds of thousands in the streets of Kenya that need my help or even our help. So when they closed the schools, my first question was, you're sending hundreds of thousands of kids from schools where it's supposed to be safe to go and live in the same slums, in the same villages where there is no access to clean water. That was my thought. I wasn't thinking about the child that is going to be picked up by, a Range Rover from school. I wasn't thinking about the child that is, their parents is going to drive to school to pick up the kid. I was thinking about those children that the only place where they can eat 3 meals is a school. The only place where they can sleep on a bed is a school. The only place where they feel safe because they're probably being sponsored by an organization to go to school. They're going to go back to those streets. They're going to go back to those slums. And there is no way of keeping those kids safe from Corona. So that's why I was thinking, why would they send the kids to school? Because like me, a person who runs a children's home, I had to pick up those kids I'm not picking them up because I'm in America, but I had to make sure to provide the logistics for all those kids to be picked up from different schools. And that was during Corona. And they're not going to be picked up in private cars. They're going to be going in matatus. Now, because we have come to where the school year has been erased by the government, I still have wondered, would they have been better to keep those kids in school and maybe provide a makeshift accommodation for the teachers to where they just remain in school. I have a children's home, it's 50 kids. That is not as big as a school, but I've been able to retain all the workers at school. We have been able to make accommodations to where we keep those kids at home, because if we send them out there to look for their relatives, they're not going to be safe. We know that. So we come back to that. Corona has hit, and has hit everybody. It's a global pandemic, but there are so many people that have been hit in a way that no one can ever tell their story.
So I think I hear you, and I want you to expound a little bit before I ask you the next question about the teens. But for the children that you are worried about poverty in the sense that you are just finished raising funds for their school fees, for their transport, for their upkeep in school, and then suddenly you had to hear that they need to get back home where you didn't have a budget for their food.
They had just gone back to their school. We had just paid so much money. We pay so much money per year, almost more than $500,000 to take all those kids back to school. That includes buying all their supplies, paying all the school fees, paying all their uniforms, and also giving them transportation, and also even visiting them. It's a lot of money. And I'm thinking the schools have closed. That money will never come back to those kids. Mm-hmm. And it's not just me. There are some kids that had to raise their money to be in school for that semester. And we know, you and I know, that it will never be returned to them.
Right. And now going, which is really, we are going to stay on that for a little bit. So there's a concern for money, which you worked hard to raise to supply them so that they can get an education. But then there's also the concern for safety, because some of them may not be at Upendo Children's, but they're going in their homes, right? So in those homes, whether it's slums or whatever state that they're living in, recently we got numbers that the teen pregnancy in Kenya, school children pregnancy in Kenya, I should say, is skyrocketed. And they had kind of a chart showcasing every county, the numbers reported. Now, as a mother, that makes me very sad. As a woman, that makes me extremely sad. As a mother of a daughter, that totally breaks me. But I do know, now looking at you from being the advocate that you are, who maybe I think it was a couple of years ago, you had just actually gone home to deal with a situation of a young girl who had been sexually assaulted. We know that it's a strange system. Can you just paint that picture for us to kind of highlight what this corona has done?
Because numbers don't lie. You know that in every 5 adolescent girls in Kenya, one of them gets to be pregnant. Gets to, they get to be pregnant.
How many did you say?
1 out of 5. So we're talking about adolescents being pregnant. What I know from my experience, from the work that I do, is that actually accounts to sexual abuse that we see in Kenya. I want to tell you why. Because I am doing a research for my PhD, and my research is I've been trying to find out why, when children are sexually abused, do not say. So I'm trying to ask them, why did you not say? Why could you not disclose? Why were you afraid, and all those kind of things? So I have been talking to the victims or the survivors. I've been talking to the survivors. And so I partnered with a hospital, the largest. It's Bika Level 5 hospital. It is the largest center for referral for children that have been sexually abused.
Wow.
So I am in the middle of that in Kenya. And when I started doing my research, talking with the doctors and the people that were helping me gather my data, they told me Eunice, the best time for you to collect data is during holidays. And I was like, what? Why? Why would that be the best time? Because that is the time we see a rise in child sexual abuse at the hospital.
Wow.
So the children are home. The parents are probably, most of the times, the children are struggling. They're out there working and they leave their kids home. The children are not sexually abused by their age mates. They're sexually abused by older people. Okay? The people that are in the village, the neighbor, because I do have, my data shows 100% of the perpetrators are familiar to the survivor or to the victim. So the neighbor, the person who provides milk, the person who provides maybe casual labor to the home, to the family, the teacher, because also I did find out the teachers are also, they also make that percentage. Okay? The older uncles, we're talking about people we trust to be actually safeguarding these children. So when you hear that Corona shutdown because of the kids being home, teen pregnancy has increased in Kenya, you have to know that, a larger percentage of that number is actually sexual abuse. And the government won't call it that because what I know, you and I know, the reason why we want to find out why the kids don't know and what they have already said is that the government does nothing when these things happen. We don't have a law that is enforced, or if it is there, it's not enforced and it does not punish the perpetrator. So as we try to think about this number of teenage pregnancies, we need to be thinking about how to change policy. And that's where my data is headed to. We're going to have to be the voice. We are going to have to be the hands that write those policies that are going to change this forever. Because if another pandemic happens or if something else like that happens, we're going to see all these children drop out of school. They're not going to go back to school. In Kenya, you don't have an alternative school for teens that become pregnant. They are kicked out of school forever. Right. So they don't get education. And so as we speak up and as we look at this issue, we need to look at it carefully and see where can we come in as the women who have been empowered in America to be the voice for these children.
And it's so sad to hear that because I feel like there should be more done from the women advocates or even just men who are fathers on the ground who are concerned for these young people. Because again, like you said, some of them are either from orphaned homes or they've had, their parents die of either AIDS, or even if their parents are there, they're poor. And it's not like they're voiceless, but they're not heard or they don't have that power to influence in their communities. So people take advantage, which is really unfortunate. And now that brings me to why, do you have your books? Because I think I wanted to touch base on your first two books, because as we are winding down, you wrote I'm going to go to your first book last, but your other latest, the second and the third book, Miss Eunice is a published author with 3 books. So the second and third is The Never Forget Us, a story of pain, poverty, and hope.
I do have my Never Forget Us book. This has a lot of issues about what we are talking about, child abuse, because I have seen it, I've experienced it, and the reasons why I do what I do. It is on.
Where can they find that book? Amazon?
It is on Amazon, or you can actually inbox me and I'll send you an autographed copy. Yes.
And then can someone type Upendo Kids if they want to support the poor children in Miss Eunice's home? Upendo Kids, the website or the Cash App, if anybody's
interested. Our Upendo Kids website is www.upendokids.org. And then our Cash App is just the $, capital U, Upendo, and capital K, Kids.
So you can inbox Miss Eunice, or you can reach out to the website and donate there if you want to support those children. I'm sure there's a lot of people doing this work with different organizations, but since she's here, this is her opportunity. But I wanted to talk about the book that you put up, and also When Your Teen Hurts, a parent's guide to detect depression and prevent suicide. So if you just want to hold it up. So if people want to buy and support, Miss Eunice, you did mention that your proceeds from your books go to your orphanage as well.
Yes, the biggest percentage of my proceeds go to the work that I do. You know, when I'm in Kenya, usually I definitely don't get paid in America, because in America you're paid by hour. So that helps me do my work, and also I give some of that money to the work that I do, definitely, because you know, even when you run an organization, you know that you find yourself all the time using your own money. So I just
Yes.
Mhm.
I know that
Yeah.
very well, but I wanted to say that
Yeah.
never forget us, a story of pain, poverty, and hope. There is hope. And I'm so happy that you're giving hope to those children and giving hope to all of us. So, anybody here who's going or thinking about starting an orphanage or supporting some poverty situation somewhere, there's a poverty here in America just as much as there is back home, but it's worse back home because of the systems, how things are set up.
The difference between poverty in America and Kenya is like heaven and earth.
Okay.
In Kenya, we do not have social services. You do not have anywhere you go for food stamps. You don't have anywhere you go for Medicare if you need it. You don't have to somewhere you go for, you know, child care support. So it is really different. We don't have a system. We don't have systems that support
That's
poor
exactly right.
communities. Yes, and
But
if we do, that money goes into people's pockets, which is very
which
sad
is
too.
very unfortunate. And I think it's important then to vet people. That's why I chose to say about upendokids.org, because it's someone at least you know that you can hold accountable, and they're not just showcasing pictures, it's actual work. And then I want to say that when I did the introduction and talked about Eunice being a coach and mentor for the youth and teens and adults, students, has other book, When Your Teen Hurts. It's literally the lived stories and experiences of those youth, and she happens to
Yeah.
raise youths in our home. Do you
So
want to say a little bit about that?
I wanted to say a little bit about it, because the book says my dedication for this book is dedicated to all parents who have lost their children through suicide. So I have spoken to some of those kids. I mean, I've spoken to some of those kids that have tried to commit suicide. I've spoken to parents whose children have died from suicide and they didn't know what to do, or they had some of those things being mentioned and they didn't take action because they really didn't realize that it was suicide that was happening. So I have written real stories of real people. Of course, I have changed the names because of safety and confidentiality. But this book is really from all my mentorship work. So I wanted especially parents from my community, the international parents or women from Kenya, or uh, men from Kenya, to know how to actually detect some of those symptoms and be able to control or prevent their children from having to commit suicide so that they can get help. So I have a lot of resources here for them. And so, yeah, so that's why I wrote that book.
That's amazing. So then I want to say that sometimes God gives you, I don't say sometimes, but all the time, whenever God gives you a vision, He gives you provision for that vision. In 2017, you wrote your first book, and your first book is called The Secrets of Winning Sisterhood Battles of Faith. That was in 2017.
Yes,
And
it's
then
my Secrets of Winning book.
okay, and as you showcase that book, I was just trying to say that that seed that was planted in you, as far as to do something with this sisterhood, was
Yeah.
recently born. Thank God, because of Corona. So I like to say that people are sitting on their gifts, waiting to share them to the world. Can you expound
Yeah.
on how you became the president then of CASP?
Well, as you first say that I do like to advocate for people. because one of the reasons why I advocate for people is because I have realized that a lot of people hurt and their voices are never heard. So I realized that there's a community of women that would come to my inbox and tell me things that were happening, whether it was domestic violence, whether it is just things going on with their children and or in their community or in their own homes. And I wanted to create a powerhouse where women would uplift each other. So our tagline is Kujuana, which is to know each other. And then the other one is Kufundishana, like teaching each other. And then the other one is Kuinuana, which is uplifting each other. I felt in my heart because I have been uplifted by other people, whether it was my mentor, whether it's somebody I looked up to, whether it's someone who prayed with me. I had been uplifted and I wanted to share that gift with other women. So when I wrote this book is just full of my testimonies, how I have been able to fight many, many battles in the presence of women. And it was published in 2017. So I have carried this vision of empowering women, of sharing my testimonies with women and the powerhouse that is within me so that we can create our own powerhouse as women. We have known to be discriminated. We have known to be just, whether it is being neglected or just being undermined coming from a country where it is male dominated. And so I feel like we do have a lot of power and I wanted to share that. So I created this book called CASP, not book, the group, which is called CASP, Kenyan Women in America, which is their powerhouse. So that is what it is called, CASP.
Yes.
Yeah, Kenyan American Sisters Powerhouse. Yes. So, and we are almost 5,000 women right now. So that vision was not created because of Corona, but Corona gave me an opportunity to see that these women need a place where they can come and be encouraged and be taught. And we have just a powerhouse. It's, our friend, our Dr. Joroge here calls it our mother's house. And I do feel 100% that our CASP is our mother's house. We are safe and we don't put women down. And we are creating leaders there. And we want everyone to rise up from wherever they are to be able to become a powerhouse for themselves and even for their kids.
Wow. Well, and that is the story of this girl from poverty to CEO to president to author to mother to wife to all
I
of
give that to God. I give all glory to God.
Amen. Amen. And you do wear a lot of hats. So as we conclude, I want to say that it was Nelson Mandela that told us that everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if only they dedicated to and passionate about what they do. So know what you do and then dedicate your passion of everything about what you do. So as a leader, I always hear you say, my bucket list, or what's on your bucket list that you want to do. And that's kind of like Eunice Menja's thing. You like to remind us of, did you write down what you need to do and how far are you in achieving those things? So as we conclude, I like leadership nuggets. You like to say what's in your bucket list. And I want to make sure that all of us are bucket fillers, not bucket empters only, but that's another talk altogether. But what would you say to a young Eunice now who's walking around barefoot with jiggers? And what would you say to an older Eunice, you now? Where are you going? Or if you're sitting on a dream, what should you say today?
I want to say to a young Eunice, or a woman that wants to rise up above and beyond, you're going to have a goal. You have to have a goal. You have to be goal oriented. I think having a goal has really made me, because I am one of the people that really have believe in the power of a vision board. You have to put your goals on the vision board. You have to see them. You have to touch them. You have to feel them, because when you have a goal and you write those objectives and you write your SMART goals and make sure that you have a timeline and you can measure them. As I told you, I had to measure whether my scholarships in Kenya were actually producing any kind of, any kind of results. And that's the kind of a person I have. So I am. So I would really say that you have to make sure you prioritize your goals as well, because there are always things coming up. So you have to have, even if my mind dresses with a lot of goals and a lot of dreams, but I have to prioritize. So maybe in 2017 I would have formed a group called Cast, just because I had written a book, but I had to prioritize and I wait for the right time and the right opportunity. So and then the other one is you have to be a good communicator. I believe in good communication. Lyna, if I'm not diplomatic when I speak with women or when I present anything to women, I am not a good communicator, and that makes me a bad leader. So I have to make sure that I respect other people. You have to respect other people if you want to achieve anything in this world, because you can achieve a lot. You can really step on people's heads and just pull people down. But if you are not a good communicator in terms of being respectful and being diplomatic, you can go far with the leadership, and also being a good listener. Communication and listening and being a good, listener go hand in hand. I listen to the needs of other people. I listen to the needs of the children at Upendo Children's Home. I listen to the needs of my community. And I saw a need to create CAST because I had listened to the needs. When they come into my inbox and say, I'm suffering from this, and they can't get it from anywhere else, I knew it was a time for me to make sure that I am meeting these needs, because it's not only their needs that are met, my needs are met too. I am a sociable person. I am a social butterfly, and I want to be sociable. And that's a place where that fulfillment comes from. So, and the other one is you have to be self-motivated, self-driven. So you have to make sure that nobody puts off your fire, because there's a lot of things that can put off your fire. You can, Lyna, if you're doing such a program and people start commenting badly and giving you bad vibes, you might feel like you want to lose hope. But if you are self-driven, those things are not going to matter. Those sideshows are not going to matter to you. Your fire is going to continue burning so long as you're self-driven and self-motivated. Don't wait for other people to motivate you. Motivate yourself. And I think that the major one is having a pool of support, especially from your family members. It is very, very important. I think in every step I have been as a leader or I've gone as a leader, I always have my family with me. My husband is my biggest cheerleader, and my children as well. So I have to make sure that even when I am doing all these things, that I am meeting their needs and I'm listening to them. When they say it's time for you to take a break, I take a break. And I think the most important, before I get to the most important, is being persistent. You have to persevere. Persistence, perseverance, and passion. Persistence, perseverance, and passion. You have to have those 3 P's. There's a lot of, I mean, if you don't have a passion, you won't be able to persevere when bad things come in your way, in your dream. So you have to make sure that you persevere. And that passion actually is the one that drives you to be persistent in your goals and whatever you're doing. And of course, the most important P is prayer. That is the most important thing is prayer, because the enemy can do anything else but can never take away your power of prayer. And I believe in that power of prayer. So anything that comes my way that I know I can't handle as a human being, I let God know, and God fights my battles, because He does, and He does very well. So thank you so much for asking me to say about that, because that is my best part. I would say a lot of things, but if I don't encourage someone who is struggling with their, whatever situation they are in their leadership, whether it's at work or home or in your business, that is what really helps me in my leadership.
So I know you've touched on what Miss Judy Magundo is asking on the screen, how
Yeah,
to manage this.
yeah.
I think if I can just summarize, and maybe Eunice, you can add, You mentioned about having a relationship with God, having that constant faith there, having a good family support. Your husband and your children have been there through the journey with you, having something like an outlet. That's why you write, and also doing more things about journaling. And I've also heard about you talking about, but the most important thing is really staying in prayer and kind of cushioning it with everything, taking it to the Lord in prayer in everything that you do. But also, I think it's the idea of thinking outside yourself. So you could have chosen to buy a beautiful Escalade or Mercedes or BMW and just chilled in America. You didn't have to do Upendo Kids because it's your money, it's your headache. But I think thinking outside of yourself to say, okay, what can I give away? What can I share the little I have? And how can I change people's lives? And for those who know, education then is key. And I think that's what you're trying to do for the children, to break that cycle through giving them an education, a safety, and food to nourish their bodies. So as we conclude, look at this, 55 minutes, Miss Eunice. I think as we finish, I want to thank you for coming. I am very blessed to know you, and I'm glad I can call you a friend. But I am honored that you are both leader in your space. I wish you the best in everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
family back in Oklahoma, or leading your advising in the on the college, or being the president of Upendo Children or the president of CASP. All of that is really crowned in the God first humility space that I always talk about. You need that in order to move forward. So for that, there's no other question. I don't see, I think Judith, we answered your question. Okay, I read the book. Yes, Eunice's books are on Amazon for those who are interested. And our website is www.upendokids.org, O-R-G. If there's no more, I think I will say thank you, Miss Eunice, unless you want to say something. Thank you to our viewers, Judith, Sophie.
Yeah, I think I can end with just thanking you, Lyna, because I know probably, a lot of times when you are a leader in your position, especially when you're asking me questions, there's probably not many people will say that you're doing a good job. But I want to say from the bottom of my heart that you are doing a good job, and you're bringing these things into open, so where we can be able to discuss. I mean, if somebody want to take our discussion, take it to the president of Kenya and see that we are not happy at some of the things that are happening, especially when it comes to the matters of children. I mean, that would be our best, our best thing that we have done for this year, because we know, I don't know if 2020 is going to count in my age, because I don't feel like I have really, really benefited from it. But if our discussion can be, somebody can run with it, whether it is our politicians, and see that these are issues that need to be addressed. You have been doing a great job bringing these things into light, because people need to realize that we have a lot to do for our country. Thank you so much, Lyna.
Thank you. I take that compliment with humility. I appreciate all of it, because I'm not going to downplay it. But I also want to say that, yes, there's a lot of us with great talent. And I do feel like as immigrants and refugees, sometimes we are kind of lost, or like it's an untapped talent. It's a good opportunity for us to showcase. As you know, I love African proverbs, and I will end it maybe by saying, until the lion knows how to write, the story will always glorify the hunter. So until we speak our stories, they're going to be from a colonial perspective or somebody else's perspective. So it's important that we say what's really happening at Upendo Children, what's really happening on the ground. It's important to share that. So for that note, thank you, Miss Rose, Miss Millicent, Miss Sophie, Miss Judith, Miss Margaret, Dr. Penny. I see all of you that joined us live. I am so grateful. We are totally grateful. Faith Be Rich, Caroline, Beatty, Wiltar, and Moy, Faith Nkubi. We are so grateful. And I know there's a lot of you, I can't call out every person, but as we end this show, I just want to say God bless you and have a good night. Until next time, thank you for watching Bold Influence with Eunice Menja.
God bless you so much, and may you have a very good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.